I've had a lot of people send me this article right here from the BBC. Tortured to death, Myanmar mass killings revealed. And this is supposedly an investigation the BBC carried out in regards to alleged atrocities they claim Myanmar's military carried out against the so-called pro-democracy opposition. And I want to show you just how dishonest this entire BBC investigation, how it wasn't even an investigation. I want to show you where they got their information from, how it is basically UK government funded propaganda that the BBC itself is getting this information from. I want to show you how even their own so-called investigation differs from US funded reports about the same series of killings. And then I want to show you how the Western media reports atrocities carried out by the opposition. I want to show you the double standards. I want to show you just how committed the Western media is to skewing the public's perception of what's going on inside Myanmar. So here is the article. This was just a day ago, late December. And they're saying the Myanmar military carried out a series of mass killings of civilians in July that resulted in the deaths of at least 40 men, a BBC investigation has found. When you hear the word investigation, you think, they went there, they examined the crime scene, they gathered forensic evidence, they brought in experts with them. But we all know, anyone who's been following my work and has seen me cover this type of story before, they know that that's not what these investigations are. They're sitting in London, talking to alleged witnesses and victims who they have absolutely no way of verifying were even there when it happened. And they're taking second, sometimes third-hand information from third parties who are in fact funded by either the US or British government or both. So let's go back to the article. They're saying eyewitnesses and survivors said the soldiers, some as young as 17, rounded up villagers before separating the men and killing them. They're talking about video footage and images that showed the aftermath. And how would you verify any of this? How would you do that without ever going there and actually collecting forensic evidence? How do you know who those people are in the graves? How do you know which side they were on? They don't know any of this because all they did was talk to people in the opposition who have every reason to paint the government in the worst light possible. Let's see what other information they've got here and where it came from. Right here, the BBC spoke to 11 witnesses in Kani and compared their accounts with mobile footage, phone footage, and photographs collected by Myanmar Witness. Myanmar Witness is a UK-based NGO that investigates human rights abuses in the country, but that's not all Myanmar Witness is. And the BBC is deliberately leaving this piece of information out because they know how badly it would undermine this entire bogus propaganda report of theirs. This is Myanmar Witness. This is their official website, Center for Information Resilience. That sounds like something associated with the British government, doesn't it? Oh, wait, it is. Myanmar Witness Project is funded by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. That's the UK equivalent of the US State Department. So the BBC, British state media, is getting their information about this supposed massacre for their so-called investigation from a UK government-funded propaganda outfit based in the UK, not based in Myanmar. So do you see how the entire ecosystem here is for creating war propaganda, not for doing any sort of legitimate investigation? Now, I had heard of this series of killings before. It was from this organization, Assistance Association for Political Prisoners. And as you can see, they posted this all the way back in August, just less than a month after the series of killings took place. So they were way ahead of the BBC. And it kind of makes you wonder why the BBC took so long to come out with what was essentially just repeating this and not even doing it accurately. This is another fake human rights outfit that is not based in Myanmar. It's based in neighboring Thailand. If you scroll to the bottom of their website, it even says right here, Tak Province, Thailand. And I've talked about them many times before. Their founder and joint secretary, Ko Bo Chi, is a fellow at the US government's National Endowment for Democracy, which also funds AAPP. So everything that we're hearing coming out of Myanmar is from US and UK funded outfits that are not even based in Myanmar. And then the BBC and others are reporting information coming from these organizations without revealing the fact that they are funded by the US and UK governments. So right there, that is a problem. The other problem with this BBC so-called investigation is that their account of these series of killings actually differs from AAPP's accounts. Now, AAPP says at least 2 of the so-called massacres involved the military just storming the village, taking people away and executing them, which may or may not have happened, but since no real investigation took place, we don't know. But then they say the 3rd and 4th massacre actually resulted from an armed confrontation between the military and this so-called People Defense Force, PDF. And I have showed you how the US-funded opposition media themselves have admitted this PDF. They go across the country, they're death squads. They rove the country, killing anyone they perceive as not being loyal to their movement. They will kill everybody. They said they will kill everyone. Traffic police, firefighters, even Red Cross workers. It's all fair game to the PDF. And this is according to Myanmar Now, opposition media. If you're not on their side, they're going to hunt you down and kill you. They put out ultimatums in villages where the Myanmar military is unable to protect people. They say, if you don't resign from your position and join our civil disobedience movement, we will shoot you dead in the street. And then they will. And they will also kill the wife and children of these administrators if they don't comply. So back to the AAPP's report about this series of killings, we don't know if the 3rd and 4th massacre, we don't know if the people who died were a result from the fighting, they were militants who were immediately killed or injured afterward. We have no idea. And the BBC never even mentions this point at all. So the bogus investigation, and not even a complete one that doesn't even match propaganda put out by other Western-funded propaganda outfits. And so this is what's going on in Myanmar right now. I'm pretty sure that there are atrocities taking place on both sides. There's no doubt about that. But what the BBC is doing is not an investigation. It is obviously a well-oiled, finely tuned propaganda operation. This is exactly what they did in Libya, and this is what they did in Syria. And they are helping perpetuate this conflict. They're helping get people killed. They're not trying to shed light on this conflict, improve everyone's understanding of it so that a solution can be arrived at. They desperately want the US, UK-backed puppet regime of Aung San Suu Kyi back in power, and they want the military crushed and ejected out of the country. And they want Myanmar to be a failed state burning on China's border. This is the ultimate goal of this whole conflict, engineered and sponsored by the US. And you see how all of these so-called human rights organizations associated with the opposition, how they are all literally funded by the US and the UK. Let's take a look at this. This was from June of this year. This is from Reuters. Myanmar ethnic group pledges probe into mass grave allegations. Do you see the difference in how the Western media reports on alleged atrocities carried out by the military and alleged atrocities carried out by the opposition? This headline is not even coming close to telling you what actually happened, and they're making it sound like, well, don't worry about it, they'll investigate it. They kidnapped 25 factory workers. Well, actually, they kidnapped over 40 people, and they killed 25 of them, and they dumped their body in mass graves. This wasn't like the military storming into a village, thinking these guys are part of the opposition militia and killing them. They knew who these people were. They were factory workers, and they killed them to punish them for not being, loyal enough to the opposition. And it basically says that throughout this article, but look at how Reuters cushions it, and then they branch off into a completely different story that has nothing to do with the alleged atrocity. So they touch on it briefly, and then they change the subject. So anyone reading this is not going to get the idea that, yeah, atrocities are probably happening on both sides. It's a brutal protracted conflict that has actually been going on for decades, and this is probably the worst flare-up in recent years. They're not going to touch on that at all. They just want to make it look like it's a one-sided conflict. The military is a horrible dictatorship, and if the opposition is doing anything, it's to defend themselves, and it's simply not true. So I thought it was important to, again, you have to dissect this propaganda. You know, when it comes to China, there's a lot of people out there who do it very well, do it better than I'm doing it. But in regards to Myanmar, nobody's covering this. So every time one of these stories comes out, or when people are sending me the same article over and over again, I feel obligated to cover it. So this alleged series of killings may or may not have taken place. There's people dying in Myanmar every day. The military is killing people. The opposition most definitely is killing people. The opposition, their own media, admit that they rove the country with these people defense forces, and they kill anyone who doesn't join their opposition. They themselves admit this. I've covered this over and over again. I've showed you the articles from Myanmar Now, which is opposition media funded by the US government. They try to spin it to make it look like it's somehow reasonable to do that, but what they're doing is terrorism. And what they're doing are war crimes. And the military is most likely doing this as well. It is a two-sided, vicious conflict. And the only way it's going to stop is if people actually understand what's driving it. And what's driving it is foreign interference. This entire opposition would not even exist without extensive US and UK backing over the decades. Again, Aung San Suu Kyi, her National League for Democracy, this is a party that at one point was in exile in Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C., before the U.S. Prepared the grounds enough to send them back to Myanmar and install them into power. This is what is fueling this entire crisis. Western interference in Myanmar, a former British colony, which makes the UK's involvement in this all the more abhorrent. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing. It's free to do and it helps the channel grow. I have a website, newatlas.report. There are no ads, there is no paywall. You can find and follow all of my work there. Please bookmark it and share it with others. I am on Twitter for the time being, @Brian_Berletic. I'm also on Weibo, and all of the links to these social media accounts and websites are in the video description below. There are also ways there where you can help support my work. And to everyone who has been, whether it's month to month through Patreon, through one-time donations, or even if you're just sharing my work with others, thank you so much. I could not do this work without that support, so thank you, and thank you for watching.